Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a lovely day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into the SCP universe again here today with the Exploring series. Recently did a video called The Star, the Hateful, did a reaction to that. And they brought up the Church of the Second Hytoth, which is something that a couple people have requested me to check out from the community. So we're going to do a video on the Church of the Second Hytoth today. Links will be down below in the description as always to the original video without my commentary and reaction and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor, click those links if you enjoy the video as we go through it. Go and give it a like, and if you enjoy the Exploring series content, do me a favor, click that link and give the man a sub if you're not subbed to him already. With all that said, we're just going to jump into the video here. So, boop. Volume up. Let's do it.
The Church of the Second Hytoth.
Hytoth.
The majority of organizations in the SCP universe with the goal of protecting our world from harm by anomalies are comprised primarily of humans, such as the Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition. Sometimes, these groups and other groups use anomalies themselves in pursuit of that goal, but by and large it's humanity protecting humanity. The Church of the Second Hytoth is a little different though, comprised primarily of extraterrestrials that care, perhaps not specifically about Earth,
What
but
about the life in the universe in general, yeah.
I've looked at this group before in my video on SCP-1548, The Star, the Hateful, which shows a scenario where members of the Church come to the forefront as Earth is besieged by hostile aliens.
Well, it seems like in that video they made it out that Earth might be the last bastion of life in general in the universe, with maybe only like one or two other stars out there.
Video will go over the Church in a broader sense, looking at their mythology as well as the different branches that comprise it. First, let's start with the basics. The Church of the Second Hytoth is really just one branch of a much larger religious group known as the Ortothans.
Right.
The Foundation cares about the Church because that's the branch located on Earth, but Ortothans exist throughout the entire galaxy in different forms. According to Ortothan mythology, which members themselves acknowledge as an incomplete view of reality, prior to existence there was only the Votu, a chaotic non-existence in which minds and matter would continually form and be destroyed. Eventually, an unknown entity created a shelter from the Votu, the first universe, which Ortothans dub the First Hytoth.
It's such an interesting kind of idea for like a creation mythos, is like before the universe began, there was just this like primordial, I guess, you know, void of consciousness where ideas and thoughts were trying to form, but kept being destroyed, consumed, or whatever by the void. And then the first universe was created when the first consciousness was able to kind of like break free and come into existence. And thus, you know, the first universe and the first creation happened, and then eventually the void came and consumed it, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's to me, that's just a fascinating idea for kind of like a creation mythos, and technically you could kind of in a way tie it to science, and like, you know, the first, you know, when that first consciousness, you know, happened, a big bang happened and that created the universe, and then, you know, after a certain amount of time, entropy could be the void coming back into you know, the universe and consuming it, which could then lead to, you know, the next, you know, consciousness creating another big bang and starting another universe, and the cycle repeats itself, kind of a thing. It's just a fascinating idea of kind of a creation mythos. Anyway,
this universe existed for billions of years until an unknown extra-universal entity managed to consume it and destroy it. Nearly all of existence was lost, but a small group of survivors managed to escape this consumption and flee back into the Votu for a time. There they stayed until the entity responsible for creating the first Hytoth made another one, which is our universe.
Right.
Technically, the Second Hytoth consists of both our universe as well as all other dimensions and branching universes, but for simplicity's sake, let's just say it's our universe. The survivors drilled their way into this universe, and 7 of them decided to band together and swear an oath that they would protect this Hytoth from being destroyed like the first. These 7 entities proceeded to ascend to godhood, becoming the Holy Seven, or the Korutuza. What exactly the entity was that consumed the first Hytoth is unknown, but the Holy Seven primarily defend our universe from entities dwelling in the Voru, known as the Voru Tut, who continually try to invade our universe to escape from the Voru. The place where they invade is known as the Vorik, a gaping wound in the universe where no life can persist. This process would completely destabilize our reality, and thus must be prevented at all costs. Unfortunately, the Ascension process was imperfect, and it's said that the Holy Seven continually leak their blood from their godly bodies.
Interesting, okay.
To assist them, they require their followers to constantly perform bloodletting
Blood
rituals.
sacrifices. That makes
The
sense.
religion-
That would make sense as to why the sacrifices in the religion are needed, because, you know, I guess you could still say, you know, similar to how the Emperor is being empowered daily in the 40K universe by thousands of souls being sacrificed to him, it could be something similar to keep these gods empowered. You know, you could just go that route as well, but anyway.
has continued to decrease in influence, however, and so less and less blood has been provided for the Holy Seven, leading them to die off one by one. The 6th died in 2000, so only the Holy 4th is alive now.
So it sounds like essentially over time they lost more and more followers, belief in them dwindled, and they died off because they just lost their powers. And then the last one that's left is the one that's protecting Earth, which is in our star. It's in our sun.
Known as Rakmu Luzin, and if he falls, there will be nothing protecting us from the Voru Tut. We don't know a great deal about each of the Holy Seven, but we at least know their names and some small details. The Holy First was named Zeyu Luzin, and was their leader, the one who discovered how to ascend to godhood. It's said that their right hand contained the might of 1 trillion stars, and their severed left arm drew in the ambient energy of the cosmos, with no other god matching their strength. They were also sadly the first of the Holy Seven to die, sacrificing themselves to stop the Voru Tut's first invasion.
Okay.
The first Ortothans constructed a
I mean, that must be pretty crazy then. Like, the most powerful god had to sacrifice himself to prevent them from an early invasion. So that should also just give you an idea, I guess, of how powerful the Voru Tut are.
galaxy-sized memorial to Zeyu Luzin.
But that also would give you, like, if you're one of the other gods left over, your most powerful god had to sacrifice himself to stop them. So that, what does that say about you, right? Like, are you going to be powerful enough to do anything against them? You know what I mean?
But it has since decayed from continual Voru Tut attacks. Oran Luzin was the second, a divine swordsman that wielded 2 swords ripped from space's fabric and melded with the higher realms of existence. Oran Luzin's skill and devotion to combat kept them feared by all of the gods, but they eventually fell when they attacked the Holy Third out of envy, and both were killed in the ensuing battle.
Interesting that they fight amongst each other, even when, you know, the idea of the existence of the universe is at stake and you're the only ones that can protect existence as it's known. They still fight amongst each other for whatever reason.
The Holy Third was Eov Luzin, who spent a great deal of time in reclusion after ascending to godhood, continually constructing their weapons. When they emerged, they revealed 3 ascended cannons constructed of metal, dark matter, and blood from their body, with the first test fire said to have produced shockwaves felt throughout the universe. Eov Luzin became one of the most renowned of the Holy Seven, which drew the envy of the second, and their battle left behind only a patch of empty space-time. Rakmo Luzin is the Holy Fourth, wielding 4 spears that can fold themselves into any shape and form necessary. When the Holy First died, they became the new leader, and eventually outlived them all. The Holy Fifth was Nezrin Luzin, a master of psionics whose body possessed a fifth arm of psychic radiance that blinded the minds that witnessed it.
Interesting.
Despite their skill and power, there came a point where information on Nesrin-Luzin started to lessen, and Ortothans spread thin across the cosmos started to forget about them. When they finally remembered and tried to provide blood for Nesrin, they found that Nesrin no longer existed.
That's also kind of interesting. So there's a couple of things there with that, right? Like, if you're a god and you rely on blood sacrifices from your followers, wouldn't you do as much as possible to make your influence known amongst the living and let them know, like, yo, dog, I need some of that blood in order to keep existence protected. Some of y'all need to sacrifice, give, for the greater good kind of a situation. Let yourself be known. Don't let yourself be forgotten. That's one point. The other point that's also interesting is that once it's died, it's not a situation where they can kind of remanifest their god back to life, right? It's not a situation where if enough people believe in it, it will come back to life or, reincarnate, whatever you want to say. So that is another interesting point. Once these gods are dead, they seem to be dead.
It's the common belief that Nesrin encountered something in the cosmos that made the universe forget about them, leaving them to wither into nothingness.
Interesting. I wonder if somehow my mind, when that happens, my mind immediately jumps to, I don't remember the SCP number, and I don't think we ever know what its name is. Is it 5000? Is it I don't think it's SCP 5000. I think it's a different one, but it's an SCP where, it's from a different reality, and knowing about it, you die when you know about it. And like it makes things forget. It's an entity from another reality that existed in some kind of crazy, harsh reality, and knowing about it, learning about it causes you to, forget about it. So that's where my mind immediately jumps, right? Did this god come in contact with it, and knowing about it caused it to be erased from existence?
The Holy Sixth was Oran-Luzin, also known as the Holy Mage, a practitioner of all occult practices and esoteric teachings. They hoped to amass a complete knowledge of all of the underlying mechanisms of existence, and they wielded 6 magical staffs. Oran was the last one to die, long after the other 5, in the year 2000. They died during one of the largest Votu invasions in history before Rakmo could bring aid, but their legacy of seeking hidden knowledge has had a great impact on all Ortothans. Finally, the Holy Seventh was Mirren-Luzin, but the Church quite literally has no information on this one.
Wow.
Information of who they were, what their abilities were, and what they accomplished have completely vanished from every tome and library, as if they never existed at all. The only indicator that they even existed are common knowledge and scraps of paper that have been torn or burnt or blotted beyond comprehension. It's likely that Mirren is dead, but even that is unknown, as they are simply lost from time.
You would think so, right? Like, if some of the others that have died have been completely forgotten, or I guess should I say, because they were forgotten, they died. You would think the same would happen to this guy, right? If all knowledge has been completely wiped and no one knows anything about them, you would think that that would be, a logical conclusion, that because they were forgotten about, they died. But it could be the other way around. It could have been that they died, or maybe were one of the first ones to die, and because of that, before enough life in the universe was established to help sustain it, whatever, or sustain the other gods, this information about him was just lost to the ages. Who knows? That's pretty interesting, though.
As mentioned, most of the entities that follow the Ortothan belief system are extraterrestrials, with a loose coalition of them being located in a star cluster about 28,000 light-years from Earth. This coalition of aliens formed in response to the aggressive actions of a civilization known as the 12 Stars, who seem to be determined to wipe out all Ortothan culture in the cluster.
See, again, to me, like, this is just a fascinating story that would make an interesting show. You know, the whole creation mythos, this like, I could almost see like a Stargate kind of show being made like this, where, you know, there's some kind of human foundation organization or whatever that discovers some kind of interstellar travel through a Stargate or something like that, and they find out that these extra dimensional entities are trying to destroy the universe, and then there's this religion that is keeping these gods from a previous universal existence alive through their own sacrifices, and these gods are, you know, waning in power because knowledge of them is being lost throughout the ages, and people are believing in they're not believing in faith as much. You know, they're relying more on science and, you know, things like that. And so, you know, because of that, and, you know, there's this great interstellar war going on between these various factions. I don't know. It sounds fascinating to me. It could be a very interesting, you know, show.
The war is mostly focused in the star cluster itself, although there have been reports of attacks by the 12 stars in other regions of the Milky Way and in the Andromeda galaxy. The Foundation has known about these aliens for some time, and have found this star cluster to be one of the most active regions in the entire galaxy. Recent advancements in the Foundation in the field of faster-than-light travel has enabled exploration of the cluster, though there are difficulties in doing so, and in communicating with the Coalition. Much of this info is gleaned from SCP-3417, a large extraterrestrial entity located in the star cluster, possessing 4 large flesh structures that transmit X-rays in periodic bursts.
4 large flesh structures. That's what they're named. 4 large flesh structures. I mean, okay.
These X-rays have been picked up by the Foundation and can be converted into audio signals, whose spectrograms reveal logograms corresponding to what the Foundation refers to as the Ortothan extraterrestrial language. Essentially, this alien is a preacher transmitting across the galaxy.
I remember them talking about that in the other video.
These transmissions largely contain what could be considered as Ortothan scripture, telling of the Holy Seven and their sacrifice, and the need to continue to provide blood for them.
Right, but in one of these, eventually, as the invasion, you know, gets forward, the transmissions start becoming strange. Some of them talking about how the Ortothans have been, or Ortothans have been defeated and the gods have been destroyed, and then flipping back to, no, you know, resist, the Ortothans still live, and yada yada. So it seems like at some point in time it either gets corrupted or these signals get infiltrated by pattern screamers or some other kind of entities that are potentially throwing out, you know, propaganda or whatever to try to demoralize, you know, the Ortothans.
The Foundation managed to send a probe over to the cluster equipped with an AI to communicate with it, but the alien ended up converting the AI to Ortothan belief, and the Foundation has since lost contact with it.
Okay.
Later, the Foundation detected a wormhole forming near the alien, from which multiple spacecraft emerged. The alien proceeded to launch a mass of antimatter at the ships, destroying them and causing the wormhole to vanish.
Yikes.
It's believed that these ships were part of the 12 Stars civilization, and the Foundation hopes to launch manned expeditions into the cluster very soon. Not all of the aliens that follow the Ortothan belief system have been thousands of light years from Earth, however. A species of Ortothans attempted to colonize Earth 700 million years ago, possessing highly advanced technology that commonly integrated esoteric practices, as well as each of them possessing powerful mental capabilities. Based on SCP-2651 and SCP-4431, they had conical bodies of around 1 meter in height,
Interesting.
with 4 or more legs attached at the base, and a number of 3-meter-long tendrils extending from their midsection, each ending in a claw. A mask covered in small biological structures was affixed on top of their bodies, and they each had a set of mandibles at the bottom of the cone. As far as the Foundation is aware, the majority of these entities followed the Ortothan belief, but there was an interesting minority among them. A small number of them worshiped the Holy Seven, but aimed to manipulate biological matter and worship a flesh deity in order to provide a continuous supply of blood for the Seven.
That does kind of make sense. Trying to create essentially a god of flesh and blood that can constantly give them a power source, act as a battery to just keep charging them. It's an interesting thought and idea.
These few were ostracized and destroyed by the majority, as it was thought that they were following the Votu. The Foundation hypothesizes that whatever was responsible for instigating these ideas among that group has also been responsible for the spread of Sarkicism.
Oh, that's an interesting twist. Okay. So potentially Sarkicism in this, idea in canon could be older than, obviously humanity itself. And because the way I'd always kind of really looked at Sarkicism and like Meccan and stuff like that is those ideas came later on when humanity already existed, although, setting aside, the cactus verse, all that kind of stuff, just from the various individual SCP articles that we've gone over that specifically talk about Sarkicism or Meccans or whatever, the way for whatever reason in my brain, it always processed that like those things came to Earth at some point in time after humanity had already been there and then kind of spread their influence. Or that maybe even humanity in some way, their beliefs in those things then created these deities, you know what I'm saying? Because that often happens in the SCP universe where it's known, that reality benders are fairly common and that they don't even necessarily know they're reality benders. Sometimes they, cancel out their own abilities because they don't believe they are reality benders. So the fact that they don't believe they are, they take away their own abilities. But the belief in deities and greater beings and enough belief in them can create them. So my thought had always kind of really been that that's how a lot of these things came to be in most canon's ideas, I guess. That humanity may have created them, in ancient times as needing things to worship or whatever. But it is interesting that the idea of Sarkicism could be some kind of thing from the Votu or whatever that is corrupting whatever they're trying to do to help these gods, stay alive and protect the universe. That's an interesting idea.
It's unknown what exactly caused the failure of Earth's colonization and whether or not these aliens are extinct, but the Foundation are continuing their investigations. Of course, not all Ortothans are alien species, as the Church of the Second Hytoth itself is a human group of followers on Earth. We'll get to them in a second, but around 11,000 BCE, there was a civilization of human Ortothans known as the Earthen Ortothan Kingdom. The creation of this civilization seems to have been spurred on by the arrival of an extraterrestrial entity referred to as the Star-Fallen Messenger. This messenger apparently spread the Ortothan belief and aided the civilization, particularly in teaching them various thaumaturgic rituals. Unfortunately, the emergence and spread of the Davite Empire led them into conflict, which eventually resulted in the conquering and destruction of the Ortothan kingdom.
Makes sense, okay.
Survivors continued to try and rebuild the kingdom over the next several thousand years, but ultimately they were completely wiped out due to an occult war in China that ended with a reality restructuring event that eliminated a great number of ancient civilizations from history.
That's something I still need to learn more about. From what I understand, there's been several occult wars. I think World War II was actually supposed to be one of the greater occult wars or whatever in the SCP universe. And those are things that I haven't really learned about. I don't know if there's any videos out there specifically about the various occult wars, but that would be something that I would be interested in reading or learning more about in the SCP, universe. What really were the occult wars? What started them? Stuff like that. All that stuff fascinates me.
A number of much smaller groups of Ortothans have persisted into the modern day, however, notably the Society of Second Hytoth, which formed in Canada in the late 1800s. This group would end up having an encounter with another extraterrestrial messenger and reformed into the Church of the Second Hytoth in the year 1900. The goals of the church are basically the same as all Ortothans: preserve Rockmo-Luzon through bloodletting rituals, spread the Ortothan religion, research aspects of Ortothan history and mythology, and kill any and all Votu.
It makes me wonder, right? Like, in this SCP universe canon, was like the Inca and Aztecs and a lot of the sacrifices and blood sacrifices they did, would those have been to this god, to Rockmo-Luzon, to keep him alive? Is that actually part of what their civilization was, even though they might have been like, named something different in their culture? Would it have actually essentially been, these deities or whatever that they were actually worshiping and giving sacrifices to? It would make kind of a different twist on the idea of sacrifices and human sacrifice, stuff like that, in a lot of different cultures and rituals. Because like the Davites just really kind of they just really did it for like magical blood purposes. It was just stuff like that. It didn't really seem like they were doing anything for a greater good,
Not every Ortothan has to do each of these things, but it's preferable to the church if they do, as the more blood that Rockmo-Luzon receives and the more Votu that die, the better off our universe will be, according to them. Relative to other Ortothan groups and other organizations on Earth, the Church of the Second Hytoth is fairly small, although they are spread across the globe. They operate multiple churches in a number of major cities, the largest being in Canada, where the original group was formed. Most of their churches, however, are tucked away from public sight in pocket dimensions accessible through ways or portals. As much as the church would like to be a very public-oriented group, they are forced into secrecy due to groups that suppress the anomalous, such as the Foundation. Part of that is due to the thaumaturgical practices of the church's members, but also due to the fact that not everyone in the church is human. A small but prominent number of the group are entities originating from other regions of the Milky Way, either coming here to assist in proselytization or due to fleeing their home systems, likely due to the 12 stars.
Wouldn't that make the SCP Foundation want to, like, I don't know, I guess they're not anomalous, right? But they are aliens. So, like, would the SCP Foundation want to contain them? Even though they're not necessarily anomalous, they are alien. And they are, I guess, spreading ideas and religions that empower anomalous creatures, even if it is, to a god that's supposed to protect, I don't know. I that's an interesting, I guess, question as to what would the Foundation do in this situation? Would they let them do their thing because they're worshiping and doing these sacrifices to a god that is essentially keeping it empowered to protect us against, being consumed by some all-powerful extra-universal entities, right? That we wouldn't have any kind of defense against were it not for this being. So the sacrifices, while, it's shitty that has to happen, are being done for a greater good. And that's something that the SCP Foundation, is in line with. They sacrifice people all the time to do things in anomalies. Granted, most of the stuff, the D classes, they aren't exactly, the best people. They're usually, pretty shitty people that have done pretty shitty things. So, but still, so like, would they allow them to do this, or would it still be something where it's like they're still practicing stuff that has to do with the anomalous? They're spreading word about these anomalous, entities and things? Would they try to stop it? There, in fact, are some aliens in these organizations that could also change how the world perceive things, which could lead to anomalous things becoming unknown, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, would the SB Foundation allow it, or would they try to stop it, or would they tell them, like, hey, there's a fine line, as long as you, like, abide by these rules we set out for you guys, you can practice what you preach, but you have to, like, be careful about tipping a certain balance. I don't know.
Due to these entities, the Church of the Second Hytoth possesses more information about phenomena and locations outside of our solar system than practically anyone on Earth, including the Foundation. These entities have also brought bits of their own technology to the Church, which the members use routinely. Despite this, however, the Church really has no way to contact other Ortothan groups in the universe, and it's unclear if other groups, by and large, even know of the Church's existence. Most of the Church's beliefs and doctrines stem from Rachmo-Luzin's actions, which form the group's central tenets. The first tenet is being able to think strategically, as Rachmo-Luzin is the greatest of strategists. Members of the Church shouldn't charge headfirst into problems, but rather proceed slowly and analytically. The second tenet is that of kindness, as Rachmo-Luzin forbid violence in the pursuit of blood, which allowed the first Ortothans to be respected by the other deities of this universe.
Interesting. Interesting. So it almost is like a situation where the sacrifices have to be willing. You can't just, like, go out and kidnap a bunch of people and, just start doing some bloodletting. Okay. So there's like a set of morals and commandments that they really have to follow,
which allowed the first Ortothans to be respected by the other deities of this universe. They credit peace with their survival, and to stay peaceful is to stay Ortothan. The third is curiosity, since Rachmo-Luzin succeeded by remaining open to the unknowns of reality, which allowed him to realize the danger of the Votu. The fourth and final tenet is strength, to be as strong and as unbending as Rachmo-Luzin has been, never losing hope in their goal. They must all carry this same optimism and strength to help them defend against the horrors that bombard this universe. The group is, by and large, peaceful with anyone that isn't aligned with the Votu, and thus maintains neutral relations with many of the other anomalous groups on Earth.
Makes sense.
The Church's overall connection with extraterrestrial entities has shaped their culture in some ways, and members of the Church are receptive to extraterrestrial concepts, even ones that are normally incomprehensible to humans.
I mean, that seems like that would be obvious, right? Because they understand there is extraterrestrial life out there, and essentially it's all existence versus the Vortut. It's like all of us versus all of them. We're all in this together. They don't care who you are. They're trying to consume our reality and existence. So it's literally like us versus them.
Members of the Church believe in latent, non-dimensional bridges that link how entities familiar with one another perceive the world. They greet one another with their bodies briefly turned sideways, as facing one another can be seen as aggressive. They have cybernetic LED implants installed under their skin that change color as a means of communication.
Interesting.
They can taste colors beyond the EM spectrum.
Can taste colors.
And some groups of members have been organized into...
They can literally taste the rainbow.
...to hive mind-like systems to maximize efficiency and collective happiness. Some members also practice a number of extraterrestrial holidays, or holidays based on such events, such as regrowth days, where members isolate themselves and focus on consuming food and rest. For most of us, these events are...
Those sound like good days to me. Just taking a day to chill out, sleep all day, stuff your face, watch some TV. I'm down.
...known as Saturday. But members of the Church of the Second Hytoth base these days around how certain alien species enter regrowth machines to rejuvenate after long periods of work. While everyone in the church, of course, worships Rakmo-Luzin primarily, like any religion, there are differences in exactly how they go about doing so.
Of course.
A number of small groups within the church have looked to other deities in the Ortothan pantheon, or even ones outside of Ortothan belief, claiming that all gods must unite in order to protect the universe from
Right,
the
that's what I'm saying. That's what I was just saying, right? Because, like, it's literally all of us versus all of them. We're all in this together, so we all have to kind of unite, or we're gonna die.
An even smaller number of members also worship entities that demand different moral practices entirely. And although these are allowed as long as the members still follow Rakmo-Luzin, they are viewed with disdain by other members. Additionally, not all Ortothans on Earth are a part of the church, as their beliefs vary too much from the church's. Generally, these small groups are ignored, but if they bring negative attention to the church and the Ortothan religion, or are in direct conflict with the church's morals, such as murdering innocents to provide blood for Rakmo-Luzin, then the church will send warriors to intervene. Details on these warriors and what exactly the church in general is capable of are sparse, although most of their members are proficient in at least one form of occult practice. Thaumaturgical or magical rituals are common, particularly to commune with various minor deities in the Ortothan pantheon.
Yeah, I was gonna say magical thaumaturgical stuff seems like it would be commonplace there, especially because, you know, in the Tale of the Star of the Hateful, that's really what started happening, is the sun was starting to put out various thaumaturgical signs and essentially casting spells to set up barriers around our solar system to protect us or cloak us from these entities.
In combination with the alien technology available to them, it's believed that, if called to action, the church could be a fearsome threat. Fortunately, the Foundation doesn't believe that they will ever use these capabilities against our world. They have,
seems like it
however,
would be
heard
pointless,
rumors
right?
that the church possesses the knowledge of a ritual that could summon an avatar of Rakmo-Luzin himself to Earth.
That would be
which
interesting.
could potentially be very worrisome.
Yeah.
Of all the known extraterrestrial civilizations, approximately 8% of them follow the Ortothan belief system in some way, with these civilizations
quite a bit,
ranging
actually,
in
right?
technological capability from being near human to being beyond all theorized levels.
I mean, who knows what the number of actual different intelligent life forms in the universe would be, but 8% of that following this religious belief and empowering this god, that seems like a pretty high number to me out of everything that in existence. And if they're also talking about potentially cross dimensions, that seems like a good number.
As mentioned, not all worship in the same way as the Church of the Second Hytoth, with a number firmly believing in the necessity of murder in order to provide Rakmo-Luzin with blood. Conflicts between extraterrestrial or Ortothan civilizations are not unheard of. Singular individuals or small groups sometimes make their way to Earth for various reasons, but no civilization aside from the ones that tried to colonize Earth long ago have been present in our solar system. This is apparently due to our overall lack of valuable resources and noteworthy features compared to other stellar regions.
Right.
Overall, the religion stands at sort of an odd point as far as the SCP Foundation is concerned. On one hand, they certainly seem to care about the fate of our universe and want to keep it safe from harm, with the majority of them being quite peaceful. But, on the other hand, they are still a group messing around with things far beyond human normalcy.
Yep.
And the anomalous has a tendency to go deeply awry.
Yep, that's what I was saying.
That being said, capturing members of the Church of the Second Hytoth isn't really a high priority for the Foundation, compared to plenty of other tasks.
Right.
And, if things do really go wrong, such as in SCP-1548, we'll likely be pretty glad that they're around.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, where does the SCP stand with them and draw a line, you know? We will not be like the Davites in their barbaric bloodlust for their divine. We will not drive away and make enemies of those who mean us well. We will ignore the blinding truth when it is before us. We will not falter. Well, there you have it. That was Exploring the SCP Foundation, the Church of the Second Hytoth by the Exploring series. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original channel and video without my commentary and reaction. If you enjoyed this video as we went through it, please do me a favor, click that link and go over there and give this video a like. And if you enjoy the Exploring series content and are not already subbed to him, please do me a favor, click the link to his channel and go over there and hit the sub button on his channel. Show him some love. Makes a lot of wonderful content for the SCP universe as well as others. So, I mean, really this video kind of went into more about the Ortothans and their influence throughout, you know, our planet and throughout the galaxy, and you know, about the worship of these deities that survived, you know, the destruction of the first universe, came over and helped create the second universe, and then ascended to godhood. To me, like I said, it's a very fascinating idea for a creation mythos, and one that I feel honestly could be kind of tied to like somewhat of real life science. The idea of the Big Bang is, you know, an explosion of consciousness, and that consciousness created the universe as it is, and you know, potentially after a certain amount of time, you know, it expands out into entropy, and entropy could lead into being, you know, destroyed and consumed by, you know, the void, essentially. I mean, that's not necessarily what this is, because there is obviously the Votu are a real thing that are trying to come into our universe and are consuming, you know, reality for whatever reason, whatever their reason is. Perhaps, again, like I'd said in the Star and the Hateful video, there is a greater universe out there, and this is a cycle of, you know, creation and destruction, life and death, you know, rebirth, all that kind of stuff on a universal scale. You know, perhaps there's another greater entity and being that is above our universe that is, you know, creating these universes to for whatever reason. You know, perhaps it's something along those lines, and this is just part of you know, birth, death, and rebirth, you know, cycle of universes. Who knows? But just the idea of, you know, there was just a void, ideas and thoughts were struggling to come into existence and kept being consumed, and then the first thoughts and ideas were able to escape and created the first universe, and eventually the Vortude came and consumed the universe, and these 7 beings were able to escape and restart the next universe, ascended to godhood, and banded together with an idea of you know, protecting this universe from them by all means necessary. It's interesting that some would fight amongst each other, so it makes me wonder, you know, because they created this new universe, are, you know, how do I want to put this, like the idea of like our basic instincts, and you know, like it's human nature for us on a certain level to like fight against each other for whatever reason, to be envious, to be jealous. There's any number of reasons you can think of where people might fight against each other, ideals, etc. And so the idea that, you know, 2 of them, you know, the second god became envious of the third god because of his ingenuity. They fought each other and killed each other. You know, those was it them that kind of instilled those like envious traits in us and other entities, etc., etc. You know, it's an interesting idea and thought. Are we essentially just trapped by what they instilled in life when they created this new universe? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, again, and he kind of said this at the end of the video, he kind of, you know, reiterated my thoughts as far as the SCP Foundation goes. Like, it seems like they allow the Church of the Second Hytoth to operate as long as they don't go too crazy with some of the stuff that they do, right? Because again, it's like a lot of them are aliens and they bring alien technology and beliefs and things that would be far outside of what would be considered normal for humanity, you know, to Earth, and it could definitely disrupt everyday normal existence, especially like if it were like right now, if we were to find out as a species without a doubt, unequivocal, you know, there's evidence of it, there's proof of it, whatever, that, you know, there is a being, a god, an entity out there that is trying to protect us from this extra universal existential threat that could destroy all existence. And, you know, what would that do, right? Like, it would change a lot. You know what I mean? It would change how we would believe and look at things and practices, and obviously, you know, willing sacrifices would probably start to become a norm because it's for the greater good. And I don't know, it would just change a lot. But it would also, like, the idea that we would essentially be we would be helpless, you know, against these entities, and the only real protection we have is this god. And, you know, if this god fails, there's nothing that we can do about it, and there's no guarantee that this god could protect us, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know, it would change a lot of people's outlooks on things, and it would change probably a lot of ways of how society would work. Maybe it would unite us in some ways, but maybe it would also cause, you know, all kinds of religious wars and things like that. Could even lead into some kind of new modern crusades where people, you know, want to snuff out older religions because they don't go in line with what the Second Hytoth Church has, and with the protection of what Rock Maluzan can provide us, you know, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, it's like the question, I guess, would be is that it seems like the SCP Foundation allows them to operate within a certain, you know, bounds, and they themselves, you know, they seem to be non-violent. They only really are violent against anything that would threaten Rock Maluzan in certain ways. But they also have the ability, as he said, to potentially, you know, summon an avatar of Rock Maluzan, and who knows what that could do. You know, that could be something that would be, you know, an end of the world scenario kind of situation. You know, you have this extremely powerful deity that is protecting us. So anyway, interesting story with a lot of different facets to it. The fact that, you know, they are connected throughout the universe with different alien entities and beings, and it really seems like it's a, you know, all of existence versus the Votu or whatever, you know. It's all of us versus all of them, and we all need to unite and help this god protect us, you know. It does make me wonder, is there a way that they could create some other kind of god, like if Rock Maluzan, I mean, I guess maybe the knowledge of how gods ascended was lost when the first one died, potentially, right? Because he's the one that showed everyone how to ascend. But if you showed everyone how to ascend, wouldn't the other gods then know how to do that? And then wouldn't Rock Maluzan potentially want to pick, you know, the staunchest of believers, followers, or whatever, and you know, ascend them to godhood to help out? Or is it a situation where this ascension can only happen at the birth of a new universe? You know what I mean? Who knows? But anyway, like I said, that was Church of the Second Hytoth by the Exploring series. Links down below in the description to all of his stuff, so check him out, give it a like, give him a sub. If you'd like to join us when we do these reactions live, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. If you've been around the channel for a while and decide you want to take your support to the next level, check those out, see if any of that would have any interest for you. You can get early access to videos, priority any kind of reaction requests you might have, etc., etc. If you have Discord, I would encourage you to, you know, link your Discord account with your YouTube account and join our Discord. In the members Discord channel is where, you know, members are able to let me know what kind of reaction requests they have, etc., etc., so I can kind of really keep track of those. It makes my life a lot easier doing it that way than trying to do it through comments. But if you don't have Discord or don't want to join Discord, you know, and you are a member, you know, let me know if you have any reactions you want me to do, because that's part of, you know, the benefits you get. So I want to make sure you guys are getting your money's worth for the support that you're having for the channel. So, but thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. Appreciate the time, you know, you're taking out of your day to watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like and a subs. It helps me and the channel grow. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Have yourselves a wonderful evening, everybody.